Welcome back to Arkansas Bigfoot, everybody. Great to see all of you out here today. Rachel and I came over to our second location. We wanted to get out here with a little more daylight to burn and poke around and look for some more things that might jump out and be of interest to everybody. Up here at the truck getting ready to walk down the trail, but I wanted to show you all these wild blackberry tangles all over the place, and they are picked clean other than a few random ones, so somebody has been eating extremely well.
A little bit of a trail coming right here.
Yeah, there's a trail running out that way through there. But we're going to take you up around where we saw those great big lean structures, and I've got a little spot set up that we'll take a look at and see what else we can find going on out here today.
And it is hot. I think I'm past the point of glowing.
This has been horrible hot. That's why we haven't been out a whole lot this week.
But it's not raining, so
I'd almost welcome a little light sprinkle right now. But other than a little bit of road noise from where we parked walking in, it's a peaceful place. There's this whole section down here. Immediately the first time we were here caught our eye, and when we get down in there you'll understand why. It is just absolutely full of all kinds of structure and sign and
X's and leaners and
just a little bit of everything down there. Looking at the trail coming across right here, right up through that.
It'd be hard to choose which side is.
Well, my thinking is we'll stick to the lower bottom side of it today because it's a little cooler. It's damp down in there. We might have better luck finding some footprints.
Keeping an eye up here, but I don't have high hopes with this hard pack.
No, you won't hardly see much of anything up here on this gravel, but we've got our snake boots on and some water with us today and a few other essentials, and
definitely more coordinated than I am.
Yeah. Well, we got used to walking without these heavy boots on for a little bit, but
Alright, which way, Pat?
I think right straight through here. Immediately, as soon as you get down in here, you start seeing the arches. And way back in behind that, if I can get it to focus on there, are some X structures in the very back of it. And of course we showed you this on the last video from here. And that's just pretty cool.
I'm gonna go walk it.
It's probably a good 13 foot tall, 14 foot at the very top of it. All that twisted tangle reminds me of something out of Sleepy Hollow.
I definitely haven't felt one quite like that one before. Whew. I'm kind of looking for something that might let me think that the family has a connection over here or not, because it feels like they use the same types of glyphs or structures just based on what they know to use.
Alright guys, so I'm not going to walk all the way up into this spot right here because I don't want to foul it out, but we've got the camera hanging on that tree. And I've got some apples on a string hanging up over there. This just looked like a really good spot to try out, so found some big indentations all through here that look like footprints in the pine straw. But there's about 6 little trails leading right up to this spot, so it might be a good place to try this.
I think this used to be a mushroom. I don't know. But it is. It's pushed flat.
It's straight down through there, probably 75 yards, this creek. So they've got water, they've got shade, they've got food sources here. There's all kinds of edible plants and berries and just a little bit of everything. But I think probably we'll hike on around and go walk down that little rocky creek we found the other day and try not to contaminate this spot too much with our scent or whatever. Said not quite sure what these guys' attitudes or reactions will be, but that's why we're here. Poke around and find out.
Big away.
Alright guys, well we thought we'd walk down this little rocky drainage for a ways and see if we see anything, little areas that might be a sitting spot or bedding spot down here where it's a little cooler.
Finding a few feet. Really hard to get super good footprints on this pine straw though. Here, this is a male. Right here. Narrow heel and then toes.
Now there's one behind your left foot.
Don't move. This is a wide female. Hard for you guys to see, I know, but that's about what they look like in the pine straw, so we got to go with what we got. This is actually a really well-traveled little spot.
A fairly worn trail right there that parallels the side of that hill.
Little arches everywhere.
I'm gonna try to go back where you came from and get into the creek itself so I don't have to eat so many spiders.
You good with ketchup?
Yeah, they might be good with ketchup and mustard, but I'm not hungry right now.
I might be more prone to eat spiders than sardines. That reminds me of the split that we've got. I don't know. We should ask Anku about this place.
Go around the right side of this tree here, right in front of you, and cross right there. We'll get up in that open little grove area.
There's a there, and that one's got toes. Hang on. That's a younger one, probably the age of the twins we've been working with based on the size. I don't know if the heel comes all the way back, but here, and then you can see the toes here. I mean, it's wide, so that would tell me female. Probably just stepped across onto this rock.
Probably not that gracefully though.
Probably a lot better than I did. Than either one of us did.
There you go.
We've been set up. Wow. Almost overwhelming out here. It's so much.
You'd think after all the years we spent walking up and down creeks looking for gold that I'd have a little better footing than that on those slick rocks, but
well, these boots don't have the best.
Guess to get out of habit.
A big little X here. I feel like we're being pulled.
And there's some big X's back in there that I can see.
It's kind of the way it went when we first started in the other, you know, they just kind of pull us in different areas. A lot of little arches.
So hopefully once we're out here after dark tonight, maybe we can find some of those glowing lichens.
Sorry.
I'm talking about the fungus lichen.
I was just remembering what you said about the werewolf.
Yeah.
The glowing
Although
werewolf.
that would be cool too, I think, maybe.
At a distance? A big distance.
Well, that goes right through a thorn thicket, so let's try to go around the
I
other
was
way.
going to say it cuts around this way. This way.
I think we may have found their airport.
That's what it feels like. Just puts us into mind of the area where all the arches are together, where we normally are at home. Let's check it out. Just a lot going on back here.
Yeah, it gets even more so the deeper we get.
Big old step right here. There's the heel. It comes up. I hope I can see that. I don't know how long it is. How long?
About 20 inches.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Welcome back to the Gourmet Sasquatch Food Channel, where we make the best treats for the big stinky feet. You know, when I'm out and about, people often stop and ask me, Ken, how do you keep Junior's hair so black and silky and shiny? Well, I always tell them it's because we give them a wide variety of flavorful and exotic dishes and treats to enjoy. But sometimes you just have to go the economic route, and that's what we're going to be working on today. Now, although Sasquatch has a very refined yet explorative palate, I mean, he enjoys food from all over the world. Sometimes the basic essentials are the best route to go. So today I'm going to show you how we're going to make the cereal bars for them. What we've got going on here is sweet feed, shelled corn, and birdseed. You can get that at usually any feed store in your area. Mix it all up together in a big mixing bowl. No need to be careful. It doesn't matter if we make a mess, because I guarantee they will be making a mess as well. So find a bunch of plastic containers that you're not necessarily proud of and pack it all in there tight. Then I like, just for a special edition, is to put just a little bit of sorghum molasses on there. That gives it a little iron, vitamin, nutrient, and mineral, plus it's sweet and it's delicious. Now the last step, find a fruit flavored Jello, and instead of mixing it 2 cups of water per box, use 1.5 cups of water per box, so it sets up a lot thicker. And when the Jello gets just to the top, you're all done. Let it sit up. You can take it out of the container and it'll be easier for Ma to pack it out in the woods. Sometimes it's just too much trouble to run all over the place finding all the other little things for them, so we can make these up in advance, have them ready to go, and they love them. Well, now that we've taken a few minutes for a little snack break, it's probably time to get down to some meat and potato subject matter. And during a lot of our walks on our videos, you'll hear us mention different ideas or topics or thoughts that are based on our experiences out here. Sometimes it's a little random and hard to follow, because that's kind of the way my thought process is lately. It's like a box with 1 billion jigsaw pieces in it, trying to get it to make patterns or come together and make some kind of sense. And people, as a general rule, consider themselves logical and rational. Whenever we're looking at something mysterious, it just begs for a reasonable explanation. But sometimes, even when we've turned over layer after layer after layer of the onion and realized that there's just more layers, there's no reasonable explanation that can be put to it without bringing in the paranormal, metaphysical, the wow and the woo factor. You know, when we first started out with these videos, we were proceeding about like most people do, and we were looking for, you know, primate, relic hominid type, something that was animalistic, something that could be quantified. And the more that we pursued and the more that we experienced, the more it became shockingly clear that there was just a lot more going on than what could fit into that nice little rational box. And I think that a lot of the Bigfoot researchers have discovered that on their own, whether they're willing to talk about it or not. They go out in that same philosophy that it's just a primate that hasn't been quantified for science yet, and something will happen, or several somethings will happen along the way, and some of them get freaked out, get PTSD, refuse to go back in the woods again. They don't want to talk about their experiences. They just lay it down and walk away. Others continue on with what they're doing, but they don't want to bring it up or mention it. And, that's okay. Somewhere or another, there's a invisible fence that has the left and the right side, that one group wants to stay in the physical reality aspect of it, and the other side embraces the more phenomenal aspects of the whole Sasquatch thing. And I don't know that one is more validated or more credible than the other. I mean, let's face it, we're talking about pursuing Sasquatch. That in and by itself, by the standards of the rest of the world, is considered a little far out there. So doesn't matter which side of the fence we're standing on, guys, we're all in the same box. Need to quit beating each other up and look at some of the things that are going on and see if we can figure out the bigger picture that's out there. And one of the topics that keeps coming up in the comments section asks what our opinion is of Sasquatch in relation to missing 411, or people, just mysteriously vanishing in the forested areas of the country. And there is so much to look at in regards to that. It's crazy. But David Pilates, before he started the whole 411 investigation, he was actually writing other books pertaining to the Bigfoot topic, the Hoopa Project and the Tribal Bigfoot, and he had taken in accounts of eyewitness reports where people had seen or experienced anything and everything from the real to the surreal, and he was documenting all of that. So he had his feet wet in that subject and was already well versed and well aware of a lot of the things that were going on in regards to Bigfoot or Sasquatch. A lot of the guideline and criteria that he uses for the investigations are situations that will fit into the parameters of the Bigfoot, or the, I hate the word alien because whenever I use it, it just draws up something from another planet, but I'm going to use alien in the term of something not normal to our environment, which can include the whole Fae species. I want to talk about Fae or Fairy or Gnomes, Elves, Dwarves. These things are anywhere from 4 inches to 12 foot tall. They can take on any type of physical form. They can look human, they can look animal, they can look all types of things in between. So there's that element of it thrown into the mix. You've got another element thrown into the mix that consists of the portal energies and doorways to other dimensions opening and closing, and people falling through or walking through. That's part of it. Another aspect to keep in mind is some of the hollow earth theory, or the underground caverns and these things that live in these places. I don't know a lot about that subject. It's not something I've personally researched very much on, but it makes sense in a lot of ways that there are things that live and dwell in these cavernous vaults under the surface that probably rarely come out and see the light of day. I mean, we've talked historically about the Moon-Eyed Children. All through North Carolina and central Tennessee, they found all types of burials with these little tiny 2 to 3 foot tall people with great big round eye socket, moon-eyed looking faces, humanoid in appearance, only in miniature. And they have been found in different parts of the country, and they were subterranean. The Cherokee legends that talk about them said that the sunlight literally hurt their eyes, or it was painful to them, so they would only come out in late evening, nighttime, or just very early in the morning. But they lived underground in these hollows and caves and under the earth. So archaeologically, we know this to be a fact. It's been proven they existed. So there are other things that exist in that regard too. If one can exist, there definitely is going to be something else. Even if we haven't found it yet, I'm sure it's out there. So with all of these things in mind, let's take a look at some of the criteria that makes the ingredients for the types of missing persons cases that he likes to investigate. One of the things that continually comes up in the mix are these boulder fields. And a lot of times the articles of clothing or remains are found in these high elevation boulder fields far and away from the hiking trails where they were last seen at, and can't make any sense as to how they got to be in that location and with such a steep grade that it would nearly be humanly impossible to just hike up there in a casual manner. Well, going back to the whole Fae topic, their primary living locations are underground, under boulders, in caves and crevices. That's a perfect environment for them. So are they being taken back to that area from something like that? Is it a Sasquatch that has grabbed them off a trail, and then since he is a triple gold medal athlete, he can traverse that terrain like it's nothing, take them to that particular type of environment, and then leave them there? I'm trying to rationalize once again what the logic or the sense would be in the boulder field, in the reasoning that a Sasquatch would take them there. Is that to cover them up with rocks and hide their body, to take them in such a remote spot that they hopefully would never be found? I don't know. And that's just one thought. Another strange phenomena that seems to happen repeatedly with these missing cases are the finding of clothing articles that look like they have just been taken off and left in a certain spot, or even folded up and laid out in a certain manner, and they attribute that to hypothermia, where at a certain level of the hypothermia their body feels like they're just overheated, and they take their clothes off and they do this or do that with them. I don't know that that's the case. If we're talking about something like Sasquatch, or even one of the forest dwellers that are out there, what would be the reasoning behind doing that? Is it a fascination or an intrigue that we look so much different than they do, that they want to see what we look like underneath the layers of what we have on, and the clothing is just left in a pile someplace? It could be miles and miles away from where remains are found, if remains are ever found. Which I think kind of leads into another thought or theory as to if a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot were guilty of abducting people in the forest, what would be the rationale behind that? Okay, so going back to the whole fascination and intrigue part of it, we behave and look and act and smell so differently than they do. Maybe it's a curious fascination. let's put it on the level of a 5 or 6 year old child walking across a grass field, and he finds a hole where baby rabbits are nested, and he becomes so intrigued and fascinated with these tiny baby rabbits, he picks them up and carries them around for the rest of the day. And in the process of that, just because he's so much bigger and stronger and not really paying attention to how he handles or mishandles them, they inadvertently die. Well, he's already far and away from where the rabbit hole was. He's not going to carry them all the way back and put them back in the hole. He's going to abandon them wherever he's at. So is that the same thing that one of these beings does when they find somebody out in the woods? And we already know that they're bigger, faster, and stronger. So it's no great mystery that they would be able to snatch up somebody and cover their mouth and not be able to scream or make a sound or be detected in the process of it. And if they're out there by themselves, it really wouldn't matter if they made noise or not. No one is around to hear it. So one of the other thoughts that come to mind is, let's take for instance a female Sasquatch that has had and lost a young one, and she's going through her own level of grief and mourning, and she hears a young person on a trail somewhere. Well, it's very familiar. Does she take them in hopes of replacing or comforting that lost nurturing feeling, that suffering that she's going through, and then inadvertently, whatever happens, happens? That's a possibility. But do I think that they're hunting us and using us as a food source? No, I don't. There's far too many game animals and far too many edible plants, berries, nuts, seasonal food sources that are natural, fish. There would be no need for that, and if that was a habitual thing, it would draw so much attention that we would probably just napalm the entire forestry. I think, if anything, most of it comes out of a intrigue or a fascination, wondering what that odd little hairless monkey is walking down the trail. And that is if, in fact, people are being abducted by a Bigfoot out in the forest. I think there's more layers to this onion than just the Bigfoot phenomena. Some people speculate that it's experimentation going on, that people are being abducted and taken to secret locations to have science experiments ran on them. We've seen enough weird and crazy stuff by now that anything is possible. I'm not going to say no. I'm just going to say I don't know that that is a fact, but anything is possible. And one of the weirder common themes that seems to run through all of this is after the fact, during the search and rescue time. It seems like there is a consistent pattern of extreme weather that comes through, whether it be torrential rains or a blizzard, snowstorm, something that is enough to stop the searchers from going any farther than what they were. So then you have to ask yourself, what is it that's out there that has that kind of juice to manipulate the weather like that? I don't think I can pin that one on Bigfoot. There's a lot of energy at play that is out there, but that, you're talking about massive amounts of energy manipulation to bring in some type of a weather system that covers a whole region. So I have no idea what would be the culprit for something like that. Another one of the things that seems to be a common reoccurrence are the tracking dogs or cadaver dogs that either won't get any type of a hit, or they'll get a scent and follow it just to a point that makes no sense, like the middle of an open area, and then it just vanishes, where it should be easily tracked on across to another point. So that brings into question, is this opening of portals of something coming through in and out, just vanish into thin air, so to speak? He could say, oh, well, a Bigfoot threw somebody up over their shoulder and went running off through the wilderness. Well, that's still going to leave a scent. They say a lot of the dogs, whenever they've come onto a scent where they suspect a Bigfoot has moved through, that the dogs refuse to follow after it. Well, I could see that, but these dogs act like there's no scent to find whatsoever. So until someone can speak canine to understand what their thought is, I don't know what the reasoning would be that they would just stop in mid-stride and can't find another scent to take up. The only thing that really makes any type of sense is a portal energy where they've just vanished into another plane of existence. Because if they fell into a hole in the ground, the scent would still be there and they would find the hole in the ground. If they were carried off or drug off by a Sasquatch or a dogman or another type of animal, there would be a scent trail. It wouldn't just stop in mid-stride. And one of the topics we've touched on a few times during our videos is the use of infrasound. And this may explain more than trying to use the other explanations. We know that infrasound can cause great fear and anxiety. It can also cause confusion, hallucinations, a deep sense of dread, the whole fight or flight chemical reaction in our body. If you're hyped up on fear and adrenaline, you can run a long, long way before you finally fall over from exhaustion or dehydration or run yourself stupid into a tree. So there's that factor of it. Maybe these people aren't being physically abducted, maybe they're being subjected to a level of infrasound that has caused such a great level of disorientation that they just wander through the wilderness for hours or for days before they finally collapse. That might be a higher probability than what we give credit to. In the times that we've experienced that for ourselves in our own woods, fortunately we were in a familiar environment, but we were drained for 2 and 3 days after the fact and just felt like we were knocked completely outside of ourselves. So imagine in a strange, rugged wilderness environment, if that happens to you, it's no great stretch of the imagination to realize that someone could just aimlessly wander off, not even knowing what they're doing, where they're going, or why they're going that direction, and be miles away from where they were last seen. But anyone that has spent a fair amount of time actually investigating and chasing after Bigfoot comes to realize that this is a hominid species that is probably extremely closely related to us in our ancient history. They are extremely intelligent. They have their own language. They have their own writings with their symbols and the stick structures that they use. They have phenomenal abilities that are beyond what we are normally able to do ourselves, whether it's being able to manipulate the energies and the frequencies and open and shut portal doors, whether it's being able to traverse large areas in just brief moments. The infrasound aspect of it, the mind speak aspect of it. These are not just some primate monkey species lost in the woods that are, knuckle-dragging unibrow monsters. They are much more than we give them credit for. We need to quit arguing amongst ourselves over who's got more credibility, the woo guys or the animal guys, and come together on all of this to make sense out of all of this. Because the arguing about it and keeping your head in the sand about it isn't going to solve anything. And at the end of the day, it's what you don't know that will hurt you. So when you go out in the woods today, keep an open mind. Keep your spidey senses finely tuned. Be aware of everything going on in your environment. Always best to go out with somebody else or a small group. And by the way, if you hear music playing in the distance, don't go chasing after it. We'll never see or hear from you again.